Certification Center commits to a higher standard. HR Certification Center commits to a higher standard.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching us from. You're most welcome to today's conversation, the HR Roundtable conversation. It's a Friday here in Ghana. I don't know where you are watching, listening to us from. Please indicate and let's know exactly where you are watching us from and let's know which part of the world that you are in. But here in Ghana, it's a very cozy weather here, and we're gearing up for the weekend. We're going to have a conversation, and so I will urge you all to just sit down quietly and then be in your homes and in your offices and enjoy this conversation that we have today. The HR Certification Center's roundtable conversation is looking at a very interesting topic, I would say, building an enduring employee experience that fuels growth and retention. This is very key in our conversations as HR practitioners. And so we're going to have that conversation today. My name is Wilhelmina, as I said in the beginning, and I will be your moderator for today's conversation. I've got three speakers with me here, and they are well vested in this topic that we'll be having this conversation. I'll introduce them later, but let me just give you a background of what we are looking at today. We're looking at employee experience, and then we are saying that it has become a critical differentiator for organizations seeking to attract, retain, and engage top talents. How is it possible, and how are we doing it as HR practitioners? So, in a world where employee expectations are evolving rapidly, organizations must go beyond traditional engagement initiatives to create an environment where employees feel valued, empowered, and connected to purpose. So, today we're going to look at some objectives where we're going to explore the key components of a strong employee experience framework. We're going to identify HR and practices that enhances retention and engagement, and then also discuss leadership, the role of leadership in shaping and sustaining positive employee experience, and also to share real life experiences and lessons learned. We'll be looking at 6 thematic areas, I would say, for today's conversation. And so we will be doing that later on. I've got with me here my distinguished speakers, and you will really enjoy today's conversation. They've got the real experience, and they are here to share with us for us to know exactly what we would have to do. So, my first speaker I would introduce is a distinguished HR transformational leader and consultant with 15 years of experience spanning across FMCG, telecom, and professional services. She's currently serving as a senior manager HR operations at MTN Ghana. She holds MA in labor and labor law and practice, and a BSc in Business Administration. Let's welcome Fiona. Let's welcome Fiona. Hi, Fiona. How are you? Can you hear me, Fiona?
I can hear you. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you're in the world. I'm glad to be here today.
Right. Thank you so much for doing this with us. Our second speaker is an accomplished human resource executive and career mentor with over 2 decades of progressive experience in HR and administration. Her career is driven by a deep passion for empowering individuals to discover purpose, fulfillment, and excellence in their professional journeys. Um, she has quite a lot under her sleeve, and I will introduce Gifty Adokisi to join us. Welcome, Gifty. Welcome, 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 Gifty. Welcome, Gifty.
Hello,
Hi, Gifty. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good to have you
Oh,
here. Right. And of course, we
so
have a
good
gentleman.
morning, good afternoon, good evening.
Right, right. Of course, we can't have a ladies' conversation, even though we've just finished with the breast cancer awareness month. We can't just do only girls' conversation. We have a gentleman in our midst, and then I will introduce him. So he's responsible for strategizing and driving new business growth and policy retention across all channels of the business. That is both retail, corporate, and group, and also associations. He's had over 20 years of work experience, spanning across, telecommunications, hospitality, and now is into the life insurance. Um, he's got a pack CV. Please help me welcome Alex Ba Inkum, who is the general manager for Distribution Enterprise Live. Hi, Alex.
Hi everyone, good afternoon or good evening. Thanks for having me.
Right. Thank you so much for doing this with us, Alex. We're so much grateful for joining us. We nearly ambushed you because it's three of us are women. And I didn't want it to be that we just finished with the Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and so we'll be still enjoying this conversation. But thank you for doing this with us. I'm so grateful for coming on board and doing this with us. So in the beginning, I said that we'll be we'll be looking at 6 thematic areas, which we'll base our conversation on today. And so the 6 thematic areas, I would mention that one is understanding employee experience. The second one is designing for growth and retention. The third is leadership and culture. The fourth is measurements and continuous improvements. And the sixth is, of course, technology and innovation in employee experience. Let me start with you, Alex. How do you define employee experience beyond engagement or satisfaction as an HR practitioner or as a general manager?
But I've always thought they said ladies first. So what happened
No,
to that?
so today I'm just changing the status quo.
So so maybe just a few thoughts.
Right.
Just like HR used to be personnel management
Mm,
before it transition. I mean, based on new insights and all of
yeah.
that. Yeah. I'm sure a few years ago we used to talk about employee engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Employee engagement. That was the the word on the street, or or the word or in the dictionary of HR practitioners. But
Yeah.
you clearly can see that there is a shift to employee experience, which is quite interesting, right? It means that experience goes beyond engagement. Engagement something can be one way, right? And HR people are very happy to say, "Oh, we are doing employee engagement." and forgive me, I'm quite unorthodox, so and I'm not reading from any script, or I don't have any book. I'm just speaking as a business person, right? And
Right.
someone who I'm also speaking as someone who has had experience leading different HR functions, but who has also transitioned into business, right? So I'm not sitting at the HR table, looking at what other people in the business are doing. I've also, gotten myself immersed in the core business, and so for the past 6 years, I've transitioned from HR into sales, and which is a shift that most people don't like to hear, right? So from HR to commercial to sales. So,
Yeah.
and clearly the word about experience is quite unique. What that means is that employees are looking for a lot of feelings, right? Feelings, quite intangible, something that goes to their very heart, their very core, something that resonates not just with them but also with their families. And you know that there are people who, if they want to stop a job today and they tell their spouse that I want to leave, their spouse will say, "Who jaya kohe?" Do you understand? I mean, it means that
Absolutely.
the experience has gone beyond just you,
Yeah.
and, and that is the kind of stage in which we are, and that is where HR professionals should be able to unlock
Yeah.
the different things that gives people an experience. I mean, we all buy and we say customer experience, right? What does that mean? Employee experience. What does that mean? And I think that it's a very useful topic for all of us to start cracking our heads around
Mm.
some
Mm.
of the things that we can be talking about or doing when it comes to employee experience.
Right. Right. I love the word, one word you brought out, feeling, feeling, feeling. Now, Gifty, I would want to ask, can the feeling be part of the core element, that makes up an employee experience endearing? Is feeling part of it? Is it a core element, Gifty?
Yes. Feeling, yes. Feeling, because um, I will relate experience, whatever you experience, to feeling. Reason being that feelings bring out happiness, joy, and it can be negative. You can have a
Right.
positive feeling and
Mm-hmm.
you can have a negative feeling. So when we are talking about employee experience, then we are looking at the totality of the employee's journey throughout his or her work life. Um, so when we are looking at the journey, we are looking at even the employee's interaction when he or she was a potential employee, like a candidate. Um, the experience he got, the interaction, and then from the candidate position up to the time the employee exits the organization. So feeling is key. Um, Without feeling, we wouldn't even have what is called experience, because experience is the feeling and the emotions as well. You
Absolutely.
understand? So it's very, very important, which can be positive or negative. So the employee's interaction throughout the work life, whether the feeling was positive, whether it was negative, that's what he or she will carry out there. So it's very, very important. I agree with Stella.
So we all agree that when we are talking about employee experience, we're looking at the feeling of the employee in relation to
Which is
the kind
also
of
key. Yeah,
right,
his
right, right.
interaction, the feeling he goes when
Mm-hmm.
interacting with the organization, the emotions that are attached to
Right.
interacting with the organization is
Mm.
key.
And with the experience, it also has to do with the mental health of the employee. Would that come into place?
Yes, it's a total journey
Right.
of the employee work life.
Hmm.
So it comprises so many things, and we can mention from when um, onboarding, the employee well-being, the employee career path, designing an individual development plan for the employee. That's why I said the totality of the employee work life. So mental health is key. Work-life balance is also there. And recognition is also there. We can spell all of them out. Recognition is there. Growth is there as
Right.
part of the experience. The employee purpose for being an employee of the organization is also key. So we can spell all of them out,
Hmm.
which
Hmm.
which makes the experience. You understand? Uh-huh.
Right. Right.
So
I
yeah,
get it.
that's what
You
we are
mentioned
talking
growth,
about.
right? You mentioned growth here, and I want us to look at how do you design growth and and retention. So, are there any practical steps that organizations need to create so that they can design a growth and retention, for the individual and the company as well? So, Fiona, can you take that up for us? Looking at the growth and retention big part.
Okay, so when we are looking at employee experience, basically we are looking, like my colleagues have said, is looking at the interactions
Right.
across the employee life cycles. And so the key thing to do with employee experience is to start looking at the moments that matter to an
Hmm.
employee. And
Right.
what does that mean? And when you look at the employee life cycle, it starts from pre-hire to when the person is hired, and then what you do whilst the person is in the organization, and what
Hmm.
you also do when the person exits the organization. And so when you take growth and development, for example, then you're asking yourself, what are the moments that matter to an employee at this stage? And different things will matter to different employees at different stages of their career. And so if I am new in the organization, and so that's when we usually what to do is that, because it's about, like Gifty and Alex mentions, about creating the feelings, about creating an emotional and cultural connection with the organization, not about documentation. What you then do, we tend to do, is then build personas that basically says that person A is a graduate and has just got into the organization. What is important to person A, that is when you start talking about the moments that matter. If I just came from university and I joined the organization, money is important, but I'm looking at growing. And so we build your growth and development around those areas. It's about not building depth, right? You are now learning about the organization. So it's really about breadth. You are exposed to a lot of things. So we are putting you on projects. We are getting you to be part of meetings. You are learning everything that you need to learn about the organization. That is really important to you. Now, having spent some time in the organization, you now understand your role. You build some depth, and now you want to build breadth because you want to go to the next level. And so the development actions we should be putting in place should reflect where you want to go in the next stage of the organization. So what you'll be doing then is now mapping those journeys and identifying the pain points that you see in the organization, or for that individual, or for the group of category of individuals that fall in that space, and try and eliminate those frictions, right? And simplify the process. And then you invest behind the career growth. So a good example is when we start we do a succession plan, for example, and then we see that individuals have their readiness is maybe 3 to 5 years. We don't wait and say we are waiting for 3 to 5 years to development. You can accelerate them. That is when you put in things like the future, emerging futures leaders program, you put people on a coaching program, and then there is the part that is specific to the individual. So you do the skills assessment, you get to understand what the gaps they have, and then help them close the gap through. And in most of the cases, we use what we call the 70-20-10 development model, where you spend 70%. We believe that 70% of your learning is on doing. So are we putting you on projects? Is there a role rotation we are doing? Are we moving you into another role? Are we sending you maybe to another country or a sister company to learn from? And then 20% is where you get coaching on the job from your boss or somebody who, and it can even be a peer coach. And then 10% is what most people usually call development, which is the training, where you go on training courses and the rest. But when you go on the training, the expectation is that you come back and apply that in what you do. So basically, all the sum of everything we do must be intentional. We should be looking at the different categories of employees, what they need at, which is why that's what we speak to as the moments that matter. What is the moment that matters in the development, and craft developments that speak to those moments that matter.
Right. So if I got you correctly, it has to do with process. And so that is what developmental process of the individual or the employee. And that is what the HR ensures, that it creates that environment for you using the 70-30, 70-20-10 rule, right?
Yeah, so it goes beyond just the process. The process
Right.
just says you need to be developed, and it develops you.
Hmm.
But employee experience is saying that what is important for you
For
in
you,
this
right?
time in your
In your
career.
career.
It's not just because you are a manager, you are going on a manager training. When in fact what you need is to build depth in your skills. So
Right.
it's really looking at the individual and say what is important at this time, and then creating the environment to
Environment.
ensure that that person can thrive and then be able to achieve the purpose for which we created the development plan.
And then also to retain the employee, right? Because once you're
Exactly. When
doing
you
that,
do all that, yes,
absolutely, you are giving that experience to the employee and you're retaining the employee. Great.
yes.
Alex, let me come to you. We're
Before,
looking at
before,
this.
before you come
Right,
to me, let me
right,
just add some things to
right,
what Luna said. And I think it's very important, some the points that she has raised, a couple of things around persona. I mean,
right.
you,
Yeah.
you need to understand how to create personas
Hmm.
around people, or for every stage of an employee's life. We all behave differently. So sometimes at every stage in our career, our thought processes are totally different. Right? What matters to Fiona at the start of her career journey will be totally different 5 years thereafter, and all of that. But
Absolutely.
a few of the points, I need all of us to always look at the employee experience as a value chain, right?
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
It's an entire value chain. And she spoke about the pre, then during.
Mm-hmm.
What sometimes most HR professionals forget is the post. Is the post. What is the kind of feeling an employee will carry about the organization post exit?
Yeah. Yeah. Very
And
critical.
and the processes leading to the exit, how it is managed, how it is actually, what's the right word? It's actually executed, can lead to a certain experience for the employee, because around that point in time, that is the persona. Somebody is exiting, there's a lot of emotions around it. What HR professionals do to still build a good experience, to still build a good experience as he or she exits. Because, like we all know, in conversations around MPS and all of those things, who if you take an employee promoter score, will this exited employee, will they be able to recommend your organization to others? Would they be
Right.
passive? Would they be uh, detractors or whatever? So I think those are key things she mentioned that I just wanted to ask.
And
Now
to
you can
add
ask
to
me your
what
question.
Alex just said, so
Yes.
the employee,
Right. Yeah.
then we talk about the branding. Mostly when we talk about HR, we don't talk about branding, but the employee
Mm.
experience when the employee exits the post, then the employee
Mm.
becomes an ambassador for the organization because of the positive
Absolutely.
experience he
Absolutely.
or she had. So he or she become an ambassador out there and then recommends the organization when it
Mm-hmm.
becomes necessary. Recently, in our condition, I'm just citing an example. In our condition of service, there have been some communication or discussion on how we can give health insurance to retirees. So, and then the conversation is ongoing, and very soon something will be implemented. Now, so that comes, the post now comes in. Even when the employee leaves the organization or retires from the organization, what experience is the organization giving to the employee? So, this health insurance for retirees, the employee is having some kind of, though he or she has retired, is experiencing a positive feeling on emotion by we giving this employee, though he has retired or he has exited, this health insurance policy. So it's a journey from the pre to the post. You don't just leave the employee because the employee has retired. What
Yeah.
experience are you even giving him after
Mhm.
retirement? It's also key. So it's all talk about the branding of the organization.
Right. So I always say that as HR professionals, your first customer is your employee because there are two customers, the internal customer and the external customer. So your internal customer is your employee. How you treat the employee will definitely, you know, decide whether somebody should come to work with you or not. So if you do not treat your internal customer right, definitely she would go out and then would not be a loyal ambassador to the company. Somebody will leave a company and then 5 years later, the person is still mentioning the company. Why? Because of the feeling, just as Alex said, the feeling the person had in the company. Right. Thank you so much for that. We will look at the third thematic area, which is leadership and culture. And I'll come to you, Alex. So you are in a leadership role, you are the general manager. How does leadership behavior shape the overall employee experience? How does it? Let's use yourself as an example. How does your leadership behavior shape your your employees, the experience in the company?
You know, employees employees watch what you do, not what you say.
Right. Mm, mm, mm.
They don't care. They don't care about all the grammar, all the long sermons.
Right.
And you know, sometimes when you are in leadership position, sometimes it's as if you are sitting on a certain high horse, right? You
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
you kind of propagate all the theories and leadership says this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They don't care. They just care about the simple acts of exemplary behavior. And they are very simple things. Do you come to work on time? If you have a meeting, are you there ahead of time? How prepared are you for your own meetings? You know, how prepared are you? How do you integrate when there's a staff event? How do you show up? Do you
Mm.
you know these are the things that matter to employees, and those are things that they will look at and say, I want to be like Wilhelmina. I want to be like Fiona. Actually, this is a good organization to work for. I'll give you simple examples. Most companies have all kinds of core values, right?
Yeah.
So and sometimes they boldly and unashamedly display it. Meanwhile, they don't go by it. They don't leave those as examples. But I'll give you a
Yeah.
simple example. So if you have a core value like friendliness, right?
Yeah.
It may look intangible, right? It may look
Mhm.
like,
Yeah.
it's a feeling. People can see it, they can feel it. They can, when they
Yes.
get into the organization, they can feel it. They will
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Yeah.
They will
Yeah.
know. If like get people to walk through for the next 10, 20 minutes or one day, if some of these core values exist, and I'm not talking about core values displayed, I'm talking
Mm.
about core values lived,
Yeah.
and lived by management, lived by leaders.
Mhm. Mhm.
It permeates the organization and
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
along the value chain. Once again,
Mhm.
see leadership example, see leadership behaviors, and how those align.
Mm.
Yes, there must always be some level of how those align
Align. Yeah.
to what we are preaching and what we expect others to do. And those are the
Mm.
things that can become more exemplary for
Mhm.
people to follow. And those things add up to the kind of experience and culture that people take away.
Right. So let's you know go back a little bit. We're looking. Let's take the organizational culture for example. I'm not saying for your company, but you know, let's look at the organizational culture. How does it play? What role does it play in sustaining, engagement with employee over time for them to have that experience or that feeling? How does that come into play?
I hope this is not for me. I hope it's for Fiona or Gifty.
Should I give it to Fiona or you'd want to answer?
It's for me. Yeah,
Yes.
maybe.
I think the answer to this question
Right,
is really
Fiona.
linked to what Alex spoke about.
Yeah.
Is really around consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Culture is like the emotional glue that holds the organization together, right? So if you are displaying, back to what Alex said, if you are just writing interesting things on the wall and doing something different, you don't create the right engagement, and so it's not sustainable. So we must live what we say, not just by displaying it, but through our processes, through the lived experiences of our employees. And so what do I mean by that? So when we go back to the employee life cycle, right? um, at different stages of your career, different things are important to you. So, for example, HR has engagements with staff. You do a survey, they give you feedback, and then they tell you things like maybe, I don't want to stay here because the feedback around is when you get pregnant, there is it's such a stressed environment. You feel like you're not a contributing member. So then HR goes and says, "Oh, we've identified a key moment that matters," and then puts in a fantastic plan of we will do before a whole playbook around what happens before, what happens during when you are pregnant, and then what happens after. And then the leader decides that, you know what, my targets are more important, right? So you are not speaking the language. So you tell somebody that, oh, I mean, whilst you're sick, or you're pregnant, this is what we have for you, and it's written on paper. It's nice, but the action of the leader, the person is working with some of the things, the thoughtless things they say. Things like, "Why are you a chicken? You're always giving birth." And this is like, I'm saying some of the things we've heard people say. So then there is a disconnect
Yeah.
between what
Yeah.
we've written on paper and
Mm-hmm.
so everything must align. It shouldn't be just what we are saying. And I'm reading some of the comments that people have put then, and they're saying engagement starts from leadership. It's not
Mm-hmm.
just about what we've written, it's about what we've written. And if you say your value is honesty, are your processes honest? Are
Honest.
you
Yeah.
saying the value is honesty and yet your process leads people to dishonesty? So you have to look at your processes and say that, are these processes speaking to the values? And then are your leaders also equipped to be able to also live the values? And once they do that, all that will feed into the culture, and then it becomes sustainable. It's inconsistency that breaks culture. And so once you manage to push and you get from the top and from below, everybody speaking the same language, doing them. We are human beings, so once in a while we'll falter. But so long as people understand that there's consistency, we create the right experiences and then it becomes sustainable.
Right,
See,
right.
the
Mhm.
leaders always set the tone. It's expected that leaders must set the tone. And their behavior are the most visible in the organization. So if our core value is respect, it is written and posted on the wall, respect integrity. And leaders are seen not respecting their employees. Just as Fiona indicated, it is the inconsistency. Now, this is a supervisor who is expected to live the value of the organization, respect, integrity, but you are not demonstrating this, then you are breaking the trust of the employees. The employees find it difficult to trust you as a leader. So then, what culture are you building in the organization? And the moment you start, there is an inconsistency on the leadership level, it cascades down to the employees. You also see the employees not being consistent or living inconsistent with the core values of the organization. So it is very important that as leaders, we set the tone, we lead the talk. If this is what we are professing as an organization, it should be seen in our behavior. If we set a time for meeting, I remember working in an organization and there is this saying that, oh, the CEO will come 2 hours after the time has been set. So you see, then it becomes a culture. So now, if you call for a meeting and you say 10 a.m. prompt, they know that the meeting will start 2 hours after 10 a.m. prompt. What are we doing? We are developing a culture of late. So the consistency is key. Living the talk is very, very important in building a culture. Otherwise, the culture will eat strategy for breakfast.
Right. Alex, would you want to add something briefly, or I can see you're smiling?
No, I think that leadership must take time to have culture conversations.
Hmm.
Sometimes you must just pause and have. So a couple of key things that my former HR did that I truly appreciate was she helped institute something they call culture conversation. So aside, we are not saying artifacts or the posting things of
On
the
the
way we live.
walls.
We are not saying it's not good. It's good, but it must be backed by
At least it
examples.
reminds us.
Right.
Yes, but it must be lived. It must be lived. Okay, so now back to the point on culture conversations. So a couple of things that she
Hmm.
used to do. When new employees come, you see all the orientation HR people do. They don't listen. Oh. Do you know?
Hmm. No, 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 no.
It's
Don't
just too
listen.
much. It's just too much information. That's the truth. They
Yeah.
don't listen. So what some people do would be to stagger kind of
Mm-hmm.
orientation. So you say a few things, you get them to immerse themselves in the environment, and then you pull back, and then you throw in other things, that kind of thing. So people actually plan and not that whole 1 week or 3 days kind of, yeah, can be able as soon as and go and live it. It doesn't work. All right. So what she did was, once the HR guys or the normal orientation is done, you guys go, because she wants you to experience some of the things that have been said. We said we are friendly, we said we are this, we said we are that. And trust me, they come back 3 months or 6 months after. And when she has a different conversation with them, sometimes we see misalignment between what we said and what happens on the shop floor.
Yeah.
So you sit at a table in the leadership room or thinking, oh, our culture is this, and people are forget it. So sometimes business leaders must pause and be deliberate about having culture conversations.
Culture conversations. Yeah.
Periodically, what she used to do was, and this is also with the full support of the managing director, people who have gone, who have been here for 3, 4 months or something, they pull them back,
Mm.
spend a whole day maybe with the managing director, and have very simple conversations. What's been your experience with friendliness? What's been your experience with professionalism? Do you remember the culture of this business? How does it align to your role? Culture is not in vacuum. You must align to things. And so if for nothing at all, HR professionals find a way to have proper culture conversations
Mm.
beyond your normal orientation plans and strategies. So
Right.
that's just what I wanted to add.
Right. I think that HR Certification Center will surely do that and then have that culture conversations and then, with our HR managers in some few weeks to come. Gifty, let me ask you this. So how can organizations, measure the success or the impacts of their employee experience initiatives? Are there any initiatives that HRs are supposed to put out there, and how do you measure that?
Okay, so I know HR professionals will do employee ESS, employee
Mm,
satisfactory survey, and all
yeah.
that. We engage employees. We engage them to actually get a feedback on their experiences at every stage of their
Mm,
journey of their work life with the organization. So these are some of the things we do so that we review and implement it in our business strategies. We
mm,
don't just do the survey or engagement and then when we get the feedback, we just give them as a document and it's live there. It has to be part of um, your strategy, you feed it in your strategy. You also review it in your business. If you are reviewing your business strategy and processes and policies, you ensure those feedbacks are embedded in that. So it's very key. So these are
mm,
some of the things we do. Initially, we do annual. We realize that the annual is not helping. So we started doing quarterly and
mm.
sometimes just impulse conversation with some of the staff, key staff, to get feedback on their experience on certain projects or certain training or certain teamwork they were engaged in. Just an impulse one to get information, gather this data, and then embed it in your business review and policies and strategies. So these are
So,
some of
so
the
it,
things.
so it has been effective, has it?
Yes, it has been. And I honestly, I like the anonymous survey.
Right.
It allows employee to be honest
Hmm.
in giving feedback on situations. Yeah, anonymous is very key for me. I like that because when you are doing the face-to-face conversation and try to get feedback, it becomes very difficult for people to be honest. So those type of survey, anonymous survey, allows the employee to speak up and tell you their experience
Right.
without fear. If they trust that it will not be held against them or it will not be used as witch hunting, then they give you direct and honest response. So I like that. And so I blend them. I do the anonymous and also do the chip in certain questions just to get feedback without you knowing that I'm actually want some kind of information from you.
Right.
I like the pulse one as well. Just chip in some few in a conversation, then I chip in a question to get feedback on situations.
Right. I love that you find ways, of putting some questions in the anonymous survey and for employees to air out their grievances and all that. It's very important, but some other places also insist that you write your name because they really want to know who exactly wrote that. But I'm very glad that you use that, that way to be able to get what you're looking for. Fiona, let's look at the evolving hybrid and the digital, world, and all of that we're in now. How prepared are we HR professionals for that, to be able to give that experience to our employees? How are we prepared? Are we really prepared, if I should ask? Are we prepared for the digital and the hybrid, work environment that we have in this world? Are we? Just a yes and
I think
just a yes and no answer. Are we prepared or not?
so. I don't think that is a black or white answer. I think it's gray.
Okay.
And the reason I'm
Right.
saying that is that I think that certain organizations are prepared and certain organizations are not.
Right.
And so it's very difficult to say. But I feel that employee experience, like we said, is a journey. And so you can never be okay because every day we learn and then different things come up. But if you really look at what makes an employee experience, and I just wanted to touch a bit on what Gifty spoke about and then dovetail this into it. Measurement is really for employee experience is not about compliance. It's more about insights driven, right? So you're not just looking at, we need to do a survey because everybody does a survey. You're doing the survey and then you're going behind the answers and you're asking the right questions. And you're trying to get to why people feel the way they feel and how do you ensure that you are trying to close the gap around how they feel. And so there are different things that you're doing. You're not just doing surveys, you're having conversations with directly impacted people. So back to my example of pregnant women, it makes sense when you are writing a policy to have a conversation with people who have experienced that, to say, how did you experience this policy when you were going on maternity leave? Did this make sense for you? What was not clear for you? How could we have made it clearer? What processes, if we put in place, would have made it easier for you? It's having those conversations. So it's not always, so sometimes you need a face to those conversations, and sometimes anonymous is good. But depending on which moment that matter you want to address, which pain point you want to address, you might use different tools and different things to be able to get the insights you need and then to put in a gap closure mechanism to close it. So sometimes we sit down, we think something is great. I remember where I was pushing for a paternity leave for men, and then had conversation with men who were asking me, what would I use it for? Why do we need paternity leave, right? And it's quite interesting. Sometimes you think you are closing a gap, but actually probably what people need is, I'm just going to be, maybe I'm just sole provider, and if I had cash to maybe purchase a onesie or something, it will make much more meaning to me. And we are saying, you know what, take 2 days and go, 5 days and go home, and then go and be. And then some women was like, no, I don't want to see. When he comes, he just come and put pressure. So don't let them come. So it makes, it's really interesting when you have the conversations, because that is why it's called experience. Because you're now giving customer grade experience to your employees. You're asking the right questions, back to what Gifty said, and then you're putting in initiatives that help people. So sometimes we do things we think is great, and the people we did it for are not excited about it. So back to the point we're making around, are we ready? And that's why I say it's not black or gray. If you are in an organization that is not yet ready for AI, and where you are, it's just making sure that the processes and everything is properly done, then you are doing that. It doesn't make sense when you haven't put a process in place, then you jump straight to things that people cannot do. So it is a journey. You move from one step to the other. Where do we want to be? We want to be in a place where when people want the information, they get it. If we are flexible, around this thing. But if you don't have the tools in place to do that, then you start where you are. So if I'm in a space in an organization where I have the tools in place to be able to monitor, to ensure that when I say people should work 2 days from home or 3 days from home, they are really working, and therefore productivity is not tanking, and I'm still getting my results, I'll do that. And I have people who have built the muscle to be able to work from home without supervision, I'll do that. But before I go to that level, I have to start with the little things first of ensuring that I'm building the capability. People know what they have to do. They don't have to have somebody breathing down their neck first. Then I move to the next stage, and then the next stage. So it is a journey you go through, and you move from one step to the other and to the other. But when I look in the Ghanaian space, and when the conversations I have, and because I am more of a very digital person, my personal opinion is that we are not there.
We're not
What
there.
I expect to see from an HR organization is that if it's 9 p.m. and I'm home, and I suddenly remember that I want to ask a question, I should be able to go onto a knowledge management system and type, I want to go on to, for paternity leave. What is the process? And get some information on what that is, with links to the tools. And that creates for me a customer grade experience versus having to wait till tomorrow morning or then be calling somebody and affecting their mental health at 9 p.m. and asking what is the process for requesting for introductory letter. So we need to leverage a lot of AI, a lot of digital tools. It makes the work easier. Also, personalization. We talked about that. Creating employee experience is also about personalization. How do we get to the point where we are not saying all of us must do a training versus this is where your passion sits, this is where your gaps are, and therefore this is the training for you. And B, this is the training for you, is personalized towards you. We haven't gotten there yet. I've talked about being flexible, building a hybrid organization, so I'll not move there. We talked about the feeling and leadership leading the course, and is really also how do we strengthen psychological safety? Because some of these things we are talking about cannot operate in a space that people feel harassed and stressed. And so there's work to be done around making sure that we are creating psychological safety. And to your point about people writing names, we should be able to get to a point where when you even give feedback, you don't feel like it will be used against you. And then we also need to, we need to redesign the work. Right. So if the way you design your work means people have to sit in the office and work, you can't tell them to work 2 days from home. So you have to really think about that and say, where are we going? Is this you don't just copy everybody. Everybody is saying work from home, so you're going to do it. Where you say people should work from home, but they're spending half the day all the time in the office. It's just on paper. It's not translating. And then we need to also build empathy, adaptability, and then change leadership. I see you wanted to ask me a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask, after COVID, work from home was the ish, and more so was a trend. It was a trend then. And a lot of companies, when you go and then you ask, oh, he didn't come to work, she didn't come to work, she's got 3 days in, 2 days out, 2 days in, 3 days out. It was the norm. Until about 2 years ago, we just decided to just all come to the office, and then just quite a few organizations still operate this hybrid systems. Would you say that we should be looking forward to another trend that would come aside the hybrid work environment? And is it going to help Africans? Let's stay within Africa and in Ghana. Are we looking at any trends that is coming? Are we aware in the HR space that there's going to be any trend that's coming? Are we prepared for that?
So I mean, I will say what I think, and then my colleagues can add to that. I think the trend is that there's a new generation. I know people have
Gen Z.
bastardized generations. So sometimes it makes it very difficult. But the way every generation sees things is different. There were some people who worked at a job they didn't like, but because they thought that it would put money on the table, they came to it. But there's another generation that, even if they come from poor families, have not really seen suffering. And so they pursue passion versus just doing the job. And we have these conversations a lot where we talk about people writing a resignation letter. We are used to the resignation letters being written. You put it nicely, the same way you got an appointment letter that was put on a nice letter and signed. But you have people write you an email and tell you that I've resigned, and you tell them, please formalize that properly, and they say, take my email as a formal resignation. So there is the way we work, and things are changing because of the exposure people are getting. So I feel like it's more around the way of work for different generations that is beginning to change, and we have to look at our processes and beginning to ask ourselves if these processes really work the same way. Some people are happy to work for you for a few, like maybe half the day, and then pursue their passion.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's fiction, but it's happening. We are having those conversations. And so things are changing. And so we need to look at those things. And then people are asking you, I have people who are interns who are saying, can I become your intern but work from home? Like, I'm in Zambia and I'm attending Ashesi University, but I really want to intern with MTN. Can I do that from? And these are conversations we have to start have. Right now, our answer is no. You have to come here. But the fact that these questions are coming up means that it's something we have to start asking ourselves. We have to start going to legal and asking, what are the implications from an IT perspective? What is our data retention? We need to start having some of those conversations. Yes.
Conversation. I really wish I could pick Alex and then Gifty's mind on this, but we would have to also finish up with the question for the last thematic area, and then also look at some of the questions that our viewers would want to ask our speakers. So please pardon me, Alex and Gifty. I'll pick your mind briefly when we're about to close the session, but let's look at technology and innovation in employee experience. And I don't want to start with Fiona because she's in technology. She's in the telecom space. Let me come to you, Alex. How can technology be leveraged to enhance employee experience across, the employee life cycle? That's why I said I wouldn't want to start with Fiona, because Fiona mentioned the employee life cycle. Or I should move to Gifty. Are you okay with that, Alex? Or I should stay with you still?
I'm fine. I'm fine.
Right. So if you would want to take it that, we're looking at the employee life cycle and how can technology enhance the experience. Yeah.
How can technology enhance the experience? How has technology enhanced our everyday lives? So, employees, we are not different from other people. So, I like very simple things, right? So, what are the things that have happened in your everyday life that has made it more useful for you?
Right.
It's the same thing an employee wants. But I'm sure as a business, you are looking at how whatever you introduce, how does it impact productivity? How does it impact outcomes? So those are things that, business leaders or HR leaders will be thinking about. You remember a few years ago, you can't, and I'm sure it's still there, you can't watch Facebook and YouTube and stuff like that in the office.
Yeah,
I'm sure
yeah.
Fiona, you are in tech. Do you guys have restrictions on that?
No, we don't.
You see?
So I think it has to do with your level in the organization. That's where they give access. So if you're management position, you can have access to Facebook.
Really?
Yes, some organizations.
So that's why I said it's gray. So it depends on the organization and what is important.
Yeah.
Yes.
But the point I'm making is that some of these everyday tools,
Mm.
they've become integral in our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your new employees will want that integrated into their everyday life.
Mm-hmm.
Will think about it, and so that is number one in terms of technology. But the other thing I want to talk about is the fact that data is everything, right?
Mm.
Data. Most HR people or most organizations sit on a lot of data that they are not able to even process it to make meaning of their own human beings that they work with. If you take your time to even analyze how Fiona has grown in her role over the past few years, you'll
Yeah.
be amazed at the various data points and the various transition points that 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 you can touch base with. And what are the tools? What are some of the technology tools that you can use to clean some of these insights? They exist. They exist in other organizations. So why can't HR people be very aggressive
Mm.
at using that? Uh, we always talk about chatbot, right? And I mean, anytime we talk about things like we think of the customer, but
Yeah.
the employees are also customers, are they not?
They are. They are your first customer.
So the example Fiona gave to say, hey, what does the leave policy even say on something?
Mm-hmm.
And immediately gets a response. And not just a response, but also with the necessary links if he or she wants to assess the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Would that not be useful? And I'm sure some organizations, some forward-thinking organizations are actually doing that now, right? Uh, some of the collaborative tools that it allows people to collaborate and work uh, either from different sides or from different angles. These are all tech tools that are useful. Agile working tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, these days there are 1,001 tools that can make your life easier, right?
Easy.
What is important is how to understand them, how to deploy them, and also examine the maturity of your organization. It's not everything that is in vogue that you need to throw into your organization. You need
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
just work on the very simple basic needs and make sure. I'll give you a typical. If you say you want AI to sit on top of your HR function to
Mm.
be able to provide quick feedback to employees, right? And your data sets,
Mm.
your processes are not proper, they are not streamlined. What do you think the system will be telling employees?
Mm.
Okay, so in as much as there are many tech tools that can make our lives easier,
Right.
the ability to find the right ones
Mm.
in moment and in time and that are fit for purpose
Sure.
in terms of deployment is critical to take the HR function to the next level.
Right. Let me briefly pick your mind on the future of employee experience when Fiona was having that, expanding that point for us, where I said I'll pick your mind. If you can briefly just share a few one line or two lines with us as we're looking at whether there are some trends that we are to look out for. And then she mentioned, the generations that we are in, the different generations that work in organizations. Quickly, how do we merge it? How do we merge it, and how do we, increase their experience so that we can retain them and then grow them as well? Just briefly, if you
All
can.
right. One, it's always been said that there are many generations working in the
Yeah. Yeah.
in the workplace now. But some of the traditional things that HR people do, like surveys, and I had surveys, I had
Yeah.
anonymous surveys. I can tell
Mm-hmm.
you, the next generation of employees, they don't care about this.
Hmm.
They will actually speak to you directly in your face and
Correct.
tell you, and they don't care about whether it's anonymous or whatever. So
Hmm.
we should start thinking. It's not as if they will be
Right.
rude, but that's just the
Hmm.
way they are wired. Okay, they will be able
Yeah.
to tell
Why?
you, yes, they'll be able to tell you a lot of things directly in the face. So let's think through that. The next one is a lot of employees would be working for purpose, right?
Mm.
Beyond the money. So if you're an organization, you must build a very solid culture, a very solid purpose.
Mm.
Okay, and sometimes yes, you are in for profit, but if employees also realize that you stand for a certain purpose, it has a way of also attracting the right talent, keeping them in the organization, and actually in a way it turns around to still add up to your profitability because people in as much as we want money, everybody stands for something good in
Sure.
one way or the other.
Sure.
So how
Sure.
an organizations position themselves will be quite useful,
Mm.
and how we align employees to the vision of the organization. So those are a few of
Right.
my thoughts.
Right. Gifty, let's look at the last question that I have on technology and innovation. Alex mentioned of chatbots. I know there are quite a number of digital tools that now HRs are employing to be able to, measure and then improve employee, retention and engagement. Are there any other ones apart from the chatbots? I think the chatbot is for the external customers or the external, but are there other tools or digital strategies that we need to be aware of as HR practitioners?
It will surprise you that the chatbot is also for employee as well, not only
Okay,
for customers. Yeah.
right.
So the chatbot can also be used for employees as well.
Hmm.
And then 3 years ago, most of our processes were actually manual.
Hmm.
Like, let me just cite an example. 3 years ago, we'll have national service persons queue up from midnight as early as 2 a.m.
Hmm.
Queue up because they can post about 1,500 national service persons to the organization, to the authority. And some will travel far, come and queue up around 2 a.m. for you.
Hmm.
So we decided to come out with an NSS portal
Hmm.
where you sit in the comfort of your home and then upload your appointment letter from National Service Secretariat and also complete every necessary information online. That was 3 years ago, and we have the data, we analyze the data. So you don't get them queuing up
Hmm.
because the organization now have a portal where we can also sit in the comfort of our home and then decide who the number we are able to take and those we will reject and ask them to go for reposting. 3 years ago, we were doing manual leave processing application and all that. We send information. Some people are in WA, some of the offices are in WA. They write to
Hmm.
us requesting for information. Now we implemented employee self-service where you sit in the comfort of your home. You can even use your mobile phone to access or have any question you want HR to respond to. And then we quickly do that. So these are some of the tools for me we have implemented that is helping HR to be very efficient in our
Hmm.
work.
Right. Briefly, let me also pick your mind on the last question about the future of employee engagement. Briefly, so that we can take questions about five or three questions, then we end the session.
So the future of employee engagement, just as Fiona mentioned, that every generation and how you have to handle them. So I think for now we should be thinking of coming out with policies that are flexible, that can easily be adaptable. Because if our we have a rigid policy where we can't review even in a month, then it becomes a problem when situation changes. How do we then adapt to the situation? Just as Alex mentioned, that a time will come in few years to come, you don't need to do anonymous survey again. They will tell you in your face. My little girl in the house will tell you in your face, Mommy ABCD. And then whilst me at her age couldn't was not able to tell my mom the things she is able to tell me now. So policies must be very flexible and adaptable. So
Yeah.
that's the future of HR. HR should strategize looking into the future. HR should get to, especially technology and AI. HR should be on top of those things so that you will be able to blend with the generation that is coming up. Because the generation that is coming up is very tech savvy. Fiona is in that
Yeah.
field, so she can speak more to it. So we have to also learn and unlearn, train ourselves, personal learning to be on top of our work when it comes to technology
Sure.
and digitalization.
Right. Thank you all so much, Alex, Gifty, and Fiona. We will take about 3 questions from our audience, and then we'll speak briefly to it, and we'll end our conversation for today. Are there any questions that we have in the comment section? Are there any questions? All right. So, as HR professionals, we must appreciate employees who are ready to tell us issues in the face and not hide behind the survey veil and go anonymous. Okay. So we've spoken to that as well. That is from Alexander Appal. Are there any questions? We want questions. These are suggestions. We want questions. About 3 questions. All right. Madam Fiona, my question is, as an entry level HR being hired in a tech environment, but then whatever top management says is final, then what is the essence of an HR in the first place? Madam Fiona, my question is, as an HR, as an entry level HR being hired in a tech environment, but then whatever top management says is final, what then is the essence of an HR in the first place? Please take it up for us briefly, Fiona.
That's an interesting question.
You see this question, the way you sat and then you're just adjusting yourself before you answer. All right, briefly speak
so,
to it for us.
so I think, Hannah, every organization is on a journey. Some organizations have been there and seen that this approach is not what grows the organization, and are taking the steps to correct things. I think that you should try and understand your organization and understand the levers that you can pull in your organization. Maybe some organizations go ahead and recruit HR people they can control, and so there's
Yeah.
nothing, or people who don't really even have an HR background, so that they can do that. So understand your organization. Is there a senior person who is receptive, who a conversation can be had with around change? Try and kind of do an assessment of your organization and try and see which levers you can pull so that a change happens. What I've seen is that sometimes these things are gradual, but once people begin to see that what they thought is what was going to make the organization grow, which is maybe keep quiet and listen to us, versus now when we listen to the individuals in the organization, we see growth. Remember, every organization is about growth. When they begin to see such successes, they will begin to incorporate some of these changes in the things we do. So learn to give feedback. Don't give
Right.
it with emotion. Have conversation from a factual point of view. Find
Right.
someone who is ready to listen, and don't say, you people, this is how you do things. Have a conversation like, can I have a conversation with you? The last time this was sent, when the manner in which it was sent, this is how it made me feel. And I want to suggest to management that we do A, B, C, D. Then it helps have a conversation
Conversation. Yeah.
versus you going with your emotions and saying, and management doesn't listen to us. Meanwhile, you don't know what was happening on the top. Maybe they also receive instructions and they're also just passing it down. Maybe they receive it from the board. So
Right.
that's why I said try and understand the organization. It's not perfect, but try and understand the organization and then work with the organization to change things. and move it. And hey, if it's not good for your mental health also, then
Leave.
and it's a place that is not good for you,
Leave.
you just find somewhere else and then move.
Right. But
So
Fiona,
I think
that is
I
my two
agree.
cents, not
I agree
knowing
with
all the details.
right. So why do we always feel that HR is not helping my matter? She is not really thinking about me, and always doing what management says. That's for a conversation for another day. Gifty, you were saying something.
No, I think I agree with Fiona on the point that look for someone you trust at the management level,
Mm,
at the top level, so that you can share your thoughts with that person. It's very important to have a mentor that you trust, that you can share with. And it's also equally important to document things like you are proposing to management. Put it in a proposal form and submit it to management. The
right.
person you trust actually propose it. I
Mm,
do at the early stage of my career. I do that a lot. Initially, I find it difficult trusting people, so I would rather put it, I would rather document it and then submit it so that you don't be scrutiny somewhere. So I like putting things into writer and then submit it. But as I mature through my career, then I learned that you can get people you can trust and share ideas with the people. So it is good to get somebody you trust, somebody you see as a mentor. Share your ideas with the person. The person will carry it to the top level.
right. Let's have our last question, and then we'll wrap up. Our last question for the day: how do you treat insubordination at work? Please, this one, who will take it up?
Insubordination.
How do you treat
Well,
insubordination at work?
I believe in conversation, just as Fiona mentioned, conversation. Probably, I don't know, but I feel that sometimes people do things without even knowing they are doing it.
Mm,
So, at the first instance, draw the person's attention to it. Have a conversation with the person. Where it repeats itself more than twice, then it becomes a habit. So, there are conditions or there are policies when it comes to insubordination. So after the first conversation and it keeps repeating itself twice, three times, then you allow the policy to work. Because sometimes sanctions correct certain behaviors. We don't sanction to punish, but we sanction to correct behavior. So insubordination, don't just, for me, I'll start with the conversation first. Draw the person's
right.
attention to it. That ABCD is not right. It serves as insubordination. And this is what the policy says about insubordination. When it repeats itself, then I will let the policy work on me. Yeah.
Right. Alex, as a general manager, how would you treat insubordination briefly at your workplace?
Hey, insubordination. Somebody said somebody said there are different categories of insubordination. But
Wow.
listen, no matter what insubordination is, we all know.
Yeah.
And I think it's always important that you have conversations. First, you need to
Mm,
look out for first understand what the issue is and what maybe triggered
that.
that level of insubordination. So
Mm,
there may be, and it's just good to listen, and sometimes listen to others if possible. Find out from others what could possibly have happened. Right, it helps you to build a stronger understanding of the issue. It doesn't mean you are shielding anyone, but once you are armed with a lot of information, it helps you. Even if you want to do a one-on-one conversation with a person, at least you have some good solid basis for that level of conversation. But hey, if it doesn't, if you try to engage, you try to coach, help, you can get the person's peer. People listen to their peers a lot
yeah.
more than you as the leader sometimes. So sometimes you can get a peer to speak to the person, and but if it doesn't work, it's an organization. There are also processes, there are procedures, And once you don't act on one level of insubordination, it cascades and it becomes a precedent. So you have to be careful how you tolerate insubordination, because it comes back to bite you.
So let me
Quickly,
just share this quickly.
Right.
Oh, Alex, I done.
I wanted to talk about the entry level HR person. Quickly, HR people, please learn the business of the business. Learn the business of the business. If you learn the business of the business, it helps you to start having a good voice. A good voice around the table. So you are not an HR person, you are a business person. Understand that. So you must understand the business of the business. Make the effort, make the time to learn what, if it's a marketing institution, what happens. Sometimes feel the pain of the marketing people. If you have to go to the field with them, make time to understand the business of the business. It gives you some leverage. So when you put together proposals or you're making recommendations, you would have built a strong network and you would have built a voice around the table. It helps you.
Right. Thank you very, very much to Alex, Fiona, and Gifty. This has been the HR Roundtable conversation on building an enduring employee experience that fuels growth and retention. My name is Wilhelmina, and I have been your moderator. So this has been brought to you by the HR Certification Center here in Accra, and we provide the best HR education and training for all HR practitioners. And so we'll be waiting for your calls on your next level of your certification to be a professional HR. Please call the numbers on your screen, and also send us an email, send us a DM on all our social media platforms, and we will respond to you with exactly what you need to become a certified HR professional. So this has been the HR Roundtable conversation from us here at the Certification Center. Thank you so much for doing this with us. It's been a great conversation. Thank you. Hope to do this again. So it's a wrap from us here at the HR Certification Center. Thank you all so much for coming on board, listening to us, and sharing your views and your questions as well. Yes, next time we'll close very early. The conversation was getting interesting, and so we couldn't finish at the time to be able to accept more questions from you. But we will definitely meet you by the end of the year with another insightful conversation from the HR Certification Center. Right. So thank you. It's a wrap from us. Thank you very, very much.
Why do 93% of the world's leading multinational companies prefer certified professionals? Because they tend to be committed to higher standards and ethics and maintain an informed intercultural competency. Whether you're seeking to build a career or to upgrade your HR professional career, you need to get trained and certified at the HR Certification Center today. Our experience in training and certifying HR professionals is unparalleled. We're trusted to offer a comprehensive portfolio of advanced professional credentials for the HR professionals worldwide, and today, more than 500,000 HR professionals worldwide in 125 plus countries proudly maintain our credentials as a mark of higher professional distinction. HR Certification Center. Call or WhatsApp today on 0244 122 855.